All right, my friends. What's up, Inner Circle family? Matt Morris here, excited to be with you to start week number 3. It has been a lot. It seems like we've been going a lot longer than just the third week here, but has been an awesome experience and super excited about what we're going to be giving you guys. It is a big week. We're going to have a good amount of time that you guys will spend on your assignments, and the assignments that you will do this week will make you so powerful as a marketer. And here's our intention with this program is really to make you guys among the best marketers in the world in network marketing. And what we're going to be going through this week is something that almost no one is teaching, almost no one is doing in the network marketing industry. And some of the things that we're going to go through are things that we have spent, myself, Trish, Ruth, have spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn what you're going to be getting. And I'm going to be going through one thing with you from a marketing standpoint that I spent $15,000 to go to one event to learn this one framework that we'll be giving you guys. So hope you have your pen and paper ready to take notes. And I'm about to get myself out of the way for the first part of the coaching call here and turn it over to two of the baddest marketers in the business in all of network marketing. So Ruth, Tricia, take it away, my friends.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
We are so excited for tonight because we're going to be sharing with you something that's going to really bring some clarity around your brand. Now, after last week, we have done a lot of thinking and what it's all about. And maybe you might have even found yourself a little bit confused or torn about what your brand is really going to be all about. Well, tonight, what we're going to be sharing with you is going to help you get clarity, crystal clear on what your personal brand is really all about. So we're super excited about tonight.
Absolutely. And yeah, like Ruth said, this piece will really be a game changer for you, and it will really help really define what it is that you're looking for. And in fact, a lot of the people who we coach, they'll be confused too, right? Because you first get started, there's so many things and you want to jump in head first and you really want to learn it all like overnight, but you can't, right? You have to learn a little, learn a little, do. But once this piece gets added in and you really take the time to go through it, you're going to have a much clearer picture on exactly, what it is that you're looking for, who it is that you're looking to attract. So I'm super excited about this. And Ruth, I think you're our sharer tonight. Yes. Awesome.
I am.
Love it, love it, love it. So anyway, I'm really excited, and I hope that everybody got their homework done this last week. And I know there were lots of great questions, so really excited about that as well. But tonight, we're going to start by going through the care. We mentioned this last week in the overview that we did, but we're going to start obviously with C, which is clarity. And so really giving you that clarity, really giving you that real vision of understanding who your ideal business prospect is. And we call that your avatar. Now, I know when I first got started, I'm like, oh, an avatar? Is that like, a little character thing you create? No, this is your ideal prospect. So when you hear us say avatar, that's what it is. It's not like this little thing. I know my kids create these avatars on their, Nintendo and all that stuff. This is your ideal business prospect that we're going to call your avatar. So diving into the avatar, one of the things that's super important is understanding why this is so important. And I know that, you guys probably hear this all the time, but, for instance, if you are in a weight loss company, you're like, oh, you'll hear people go, well, prospect to everybody. Everybody needs good nutrition. But everybody really isn't your prospect, right? So when you're marketing to everyone, you're really marketing to no one, because you need to be marketing to the people who are open, to the people who are actually really looking for something. So when you're in the network marketing space, yeah, I mean, everybody could build a business in network marketing, but you want to be finding the people who actually want to build a business in network marketing. And there's a big difference between people who need it and people who actually want it. Because how many of you have, think about this, ask yourself, how many people have you signed up who've come into your business and then they do nothing, right? Well, the reason most of them do nothing is because they don't really want to build a business. People come in and they find out they need to do a little work and they're like, no, I'm out. I thought I could sign up and get rich quick, right? But so really, identifying who it is, and it's going to be much narrower than just looking for people, for your business, but really understanding, first of all, who wants a business versus talking to every single person who's out there.
So we're going to really dive into defining who is your ideal prospect. And when you get really clear on who your prospect is, it's going to help you make your marketing more relevant so that it actually attracts that prospect. And really honing in on who that prospect is will not only give you clarity on what types of things to post, but it's going to help you get clarity on your branding, because your brand is really who you are for that person. Who are you going to be? Maybe it's someone who inspires them or educates them or entertains them or a combination of all. But we need to understand your prospect before we know what kind of content is going to really appeal to them.
And it's really funny, this next one here is, becoming a valuable resource. But when I look at, the people who we've attracted, Ruth, it's really funny how many have a very similar background to us, right? And a lot of that is, number 3 here, because you're thinking about what problems can you solve for your avatar with your content. And I know, for us, like Ruth was in corporate, I had my own business, but we had been in the accounting world for a really long time. So a lot of the language we used was around some of that. And we really talked about, the network marketing, but making sure that, you're using the right language. So for instance, if you're thinking about this, think about if you've got someone who's in corporate America, right? One of the problems you could solve for them is helping them find a way to get out if that's what they're looking for, right? Some people are doing that. They get started in this industry part-time so that they can go full-time eventually to get out of corporate America. I know that was one of the things for me. I got out of corporate America. I didn't want to go back, right? So really being able to identify those problems. Now, it may be that someone's looking to, have extra money to pay for their kids' college. It may be they're looking for a retirement income. Maybe they've had a great career and, they've got some things, but they want something extra, right? They want a little extra for retirement. So you've got to figure out, what problem it is that you're going to solve. What type of person is it that you're looking to attract for your business? Because then you're going to solve that problem with your content and what you put out there for them to either read or hear from you, when you're doing your marketing.
And lastly, your brand becomes top of mind. So when you're consistent with your brand message, so the types of content you're putting out there, the types of language you're using around your content, we're going to dive into that a little bit more in a bit. But people, when you become that valuable resource, people will think of you first when they're searching for an answer to their problems. And that's really the attraction piece. When you're top of mind and people know that you can solve their problems for them, then that's where you're starting to develop a really memorable, strong brand.
So here's what most network marketers are doing, right? And we laugh at this, but I got to tell you guys, we were guilty of this too. And just like we were talking, last week about making sure you clean up your profile and stuff, this kind of goes along with it. This is probably some of the stuff you may or may not have done, but you've probably seen it if you weren't one of those people. But I can tell you, when Ruth and I started marketing online, we were definitely doing all these things. And guess what? They don't work. Right? They really don't work. So like we said last week, what most network marketers are doing is they're posting pictures of products, right? They're posting a picture of, hey, look at me, with whatever it is, or they're just, posting like a picture that the company gives of the product, right? And just putting it out there with a little statement, like somebody's supposed to know, what this product is. Or they're posting, the replicated company website links. And that's spammy, right? When you're just putting a link out there for people to go check out, that's really spammy. People aren't on social media to shop or to buy, even though they do. That's not why they go on there every single day. And so they don't, that's not what they want to be looking at. Posting statements like, I'm looking for 5 more go-getters to join my team. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many copy paste message or like that I would put in groups. Like I would spam groups every single day and just put that in the groups. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did get a few people who reached out. But guys, when you get a few people who reach out, that's not good marketing, right? Like you need stuff that duplicates. And the thing is I had to post this so many times in so many groups to get somebody. Like nobody wants to do that, right? That's not how someone wants to build a business. Or maybe this is one of the things you've seen. Maybe you guys have been a victim of this, but sending those copy paste, hey girl messages. And I got to tell you, I still get them every day. And it's really hilarious because now I just go back and send them something like, hey, how's this working for you? You know, and we've gotten people into our group and our team because of their bad marketing, right? But that's the thing, you know, when you send those hey girl messages, they don't work. Now, years ago, when we did it, it would work sometimes. But the thing is people get this all the time now. And people see it and they just ignore it. And it's not really a marketing strategy. It's just really a spammy tactic.
It's kind of funny, Trish, when I look at this slide, that statement, I'm looking for 5 more go-getters. That was my desperation post at the end of the week, because I likely recruited no one, or, you know, very few people, maybe got a customer or 2, and I was desperate. And so that was always my desperation post, and I kept doing it, but it didn't really work very well for me. But here's the thing, marketing to everyone is like marketing to no one. And I'm going to share with you one of the mistakes I made in the very beginning of starting my own personal brand. I knew who I wanted to attract. I wanted to attract an entrepreneurial audience, but I didn't care if they were 18 years old or 80 years old. I had this fear that if I didn't cast a broad enough net with my message, that no one would be, or everyone, you know, I would miss out on people. But what ended up happening was my message was so broad that nobody really understood what I stood for, or what I did for that matter. And I ended up attracting no one. So I had a fear that if I cast a wide net, I would be able to get everyone. And if I narrowed down, I would miss people, right? But that's the fastest way to not build your brand. So you really want to niche down and get specific. And that's why this avatar training is really going to help you. So the broader your audience, the less your message is heard and felt. So we use the word felt there because when people can feel your message, they immediately connect with you. And we're going to get into a lot about storytelling in the future trainings. And that's where people will really connect with you, when they feel your message. You will never know what to post if you don't know what your avatar struggles with, right? When you understand your avatar's struggles, the things that they're going through in their lives, and how your business or your products can help them, then you'll have clarity on what to post, the posts that attract. But until you're crystal clear on that avatar, and we're going to have an exercise for you in a bit, you'll never really know what to post. So it'll be like, you know, throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. Without clarity, your posts will absolutely get lost in a sea of social media noise. And like me in the beginning, I attracted no one with these posts, even though I was trying. I was posting every day, but I didn't have clarity in my messaging and my brand.
You know, Ruth, I think that's such a great point because, you know, I remember you and I have talked about this before, because when you get really crystal clear, what ends up happening is you're attracting the right people, right? So the people who, you know, if it's products, you know, the people to buy your products. If it's to build the business, it's the business builders. And I remember someone saying something, yeah, but I want to have this really big team. And I'm like, well, I want a really big team too, but I would rather have 100 really amazing people than 1,000 people who do nothing. So think about that, because when you're not clear on that message, you're trying to talk to all these people and nobody's really seeing it. Or if you do get people joining you, it's not really the ones you're looking for. But if you can get really focused, you're going to get the good ones. And so it's really more about quality over quantity. And so just, think about that. The other thing is you really want to become a professional marketer, right? Delivering the right message in front of the right audience will get you the right results. Think about this, if there's somebody who's, looking to buy a truck or something, think about some of the, big brands that are out there. Somebody who wants to go buy a big truck, when people are marketing, a company that markets a really small car, like a smart car or something, isn't going to market to an area with a demographic that's got people who are going to be like truck drivers, right? They're going to, so you do the same thing here. You want to get really crystal clear and get your message in front of that right audience. And social media lets you do that through the different algorithms and stuff when you start putting the right content out. People are going to reach out based on emotion. So we have to know which emotions to play on. And again, if you're, trying to market to somebody who potentially, is looking to make that extra money, maybe they're just looking to make some extra money every week or every month. And you never know, it could be, to pay for some kids' sports. It could be for, like I mentioned before, the retirement. When you know that emotion to play on, you're going to, again, hit those feelings like Ruth was saying, because it's really going to get home and they're going to read your post and go, oh, wow, me too, right? And that's what you really want, is when someone's looking at your post or listening to you on a live, them going, yeah, me too, right? That's what you want them saying. So what will end up happening is your post is going to become more intentional. And with this, people will start reaching out to you. And it takes sometimes a little bit of time on social media, right, for that to happen. But I can tell you, once it starts happening, it is such an incredible feeling, because you start having conversations with people who are quality, right? People who actually want what you have. And that's really, really cool. And when you understand who your ideal prospect is and what they look like, their habits, their interests, their challenges, their aspirations, really everything about them, you're going to be much more effective in your marketing to them as well. So, if you're thinking about, let's use weight loss just because that's super easy. A lot of companies, represent that. If you're talking about the struggles that you've had, the challenges that you've had, with things that you've been trying to do, and all of a sudden you now have a solution for that, right? That's going to catch their interest. It's going to allow them to start seeing what it is that you're posting about. And once they start seeing some of what you're posting about, because you're always going to be very consistent with always putting that same message into your content, they're going to start seeing more and more and more of you. And when they do that, you're going to build that know, like, and trust, like we talked about last week. And that's when people are really going to start reaching out to you.
And I remember, Trish, when I first started building my brand, I had a lot of self-doubt. So if you're feeling like I've got a little self-doubt about this, whether I can really pull off a personal brand, let me assure you that you can. And I want you to think about it this way. We talked last week a lot about authenticity and showing up as the authentic you. That's what's going to make you stand out from the crowd. And when you show up that way, you show up in your own uniqueness, right? And so your tribe will be attracted to you. And I liken it to, in the town that I live in, we've got a street with all of these different car dealerships. There's Toyota and Honda and Ford, and they're all there. And they're all separate brands, and they're all competing against each other. But I know that I'm going to go to the Toyota dealership because I like Toyota. And there's a specific salesperson I really like there. I resonate with her. She speaks my language. And she sets herself apart by being uniquely her, right? So when you're feeling self-doubt as you're going through this, just know that when you show up as you with the right message in front of your perfect prospect, you will attract them. So next is really, who do you want to attract, right? Who is your ideal prospect? And I like to think of it this way. If you imagine, tomorrow morning, someone knocking on your door and you open it and they say, hey, I've been watching you. I've been following you. I'm ready to join your team. And you're super excited. Who is that person? What kind of qualities do they have? So some of the things you can think about is, what are you passionate about? Like, what is your passion? What is something that you can show up on social media every day excited to talk about, right? It has to be something that really is in your heart, and you can show up in a way that's authentic and real and excited. And who are you, right? What special things, special qualities do you have? What uniqueness do you have that you can show the people on social media? And again, that can sometimes be a bit of a mindset thing, because I remember when I started out, I'm going like, I'm just this boring accountant. Who's going to be attracted to me? Well, apparently there's a lot of boring accountants attracted to me. They're really not all that boring. So also, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? What kind of people? What age demographic, right? Who do you want to serve? What could you talk about all day long with excitement, with no effort at all? And what's your vision? What's your vision for your tribe, your perfect prospect? Again, if they showed up on your doorstep tomorrow, who is that person? Who would you love to lock arms with? That's kind of where you start.
Ruth, I love that you say that too, because I remember when I first got started on social media as well, you go out and you watch some other people who've already got a stronger presence, and it's very intimidating, because sometimes people are really loud and boisterous and you're like, yeah, that's not me, right? And I know that can be scary, because for a long time I kept thinking I had to be this really loud, like, person who was going to dance on camera and do these things, and I was like, that's just not me. Like, I would try and practice it, and I'm like, yeah, this can't happen, right? So it's just not you. So that's why it's so important to show up so authentically as well, because not everybody is like that. And when you show up as you, it's letting other people know it's okay to be you, because it's going to resonate with the right people, and they're going to want to show up that way as well. And I agree, accountants are not boring. We just have a reputation to be boring, right? But so who is your perfect prospect, your avatar, right? So now that you know what you are excited about, let's start defining your perfect prospect for you. So you really want to think about picking one ideal person, right? So let's create your perfect customer or business partner for you. So one of the things, when I was trying to think about who is my perfect prospect, I was like, okay, well, I'm a mom, right? So that was something I thought I could attract some moms. Now, again, doesn't mean you're not going to attract other people, but again, you've got to have that language that someone's going to agree with. So me, I thought, okay, let me talk about, bringing in some moms. I talked a lot about how I got into network marketing, what my story was, how I used to work a lot of hours, how, my husband and I started carpooling together just to spend more time together. How, we talked about how would we ever have a family when we worked all the time and our kids would live in daycare, right? So be thinking about these different things that you can be talking or thinking about in sharing. Another thing is, I like to hike. I like to run. I do, I like to do big races. So, again, thinking about people who really love the outdoors, people who, love to do different activities that, aren't necessarily things that everybody wants to do. Thinking about, what it is I want from my business, where I'm looking to go in my business. Thinking about, the type of person who you are and who it is, that you want to hang out with, who it is that you want to, work side by side with. Because think about this, when you're building a team, you want to like the people you're working with. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be best friends with every single one of them, but you do want to have some commonalities with them. Right? So hopefully this is making sense, right? But really, as you're doing this, you're going to want to narrow it down to one person. Because when you, and Ruth actually gives a great example a lot, when she first started, she has shared how she cut out a picture out of a magazine of this person and put a name on it and literally would put it on her computer so that every time she did a post, she would be thinking about that person. But, really thinking about, what it is that maybe, network marketing has solved for you. Now, it doesn't need to be exactly like you, but a lot of times you do end up attracting people who are very similar to you, just because, again, those are where your common interests are and things like that. And also when you are doing things like that, it's going to allow you to be able to speak to that one person on social media. So when you're really talking about, the different things that, you've gone through in your business, the struggles that you've gone through in your business, likely it's going to resonate with somebody of things that they've struggled with as well. And now, what you did, to have a solution, and now how life is, right? So as you're thinking about these things, you want to be able to take people from, really starting to resonate with you on, that struggle, but also kind of steering them through to how things are for you now. So it starts to make more sense and gives them that picture that, wait a minute, I can do this too. But it's also going to resonate, and it's going to allow you to really be speaking more to that one person and be able to capture that emotion and connection with them.
And I love this slide, Trish, because I think when we identify and define our perfect prospect as one person, it allows us to get way more personal, way more connected, express way more emotion in our posts when we're actually writing for someone or doing a live for one person, as if we're actually speaking to them or telling them a story. Now, you may ask yourself, well, what if that one person doesn't find my content, right? Are they going to resonate with me? Well, the beauty of this is when people start watching your content, they might not have all of the qualities of your perfect avatar, your perfect prospect, but when they hear one or two things that is one of their qualities or one of their struggles, they're going to go, wow, that's my person. That person understands me. We have an understanding that creates connection, and it starts that process of brand building and trust. So getting crystal clear on one avatar so you can be very specific in your communication, but you're still going to attract people with one or more of those qualities. So here we are. Let's get specific. So first of all, this is just an example, okay? So your avatar is going to look very different from this example. But the first thing you want to do is give them a name, because it makes them more real for you, and it'll help you create your posts when you're actually writing to someone. And like Trish said, I used to have a picture of someone from a magazine pasted on my computer so that I was always speaking to that person when I was either writing a social media post or doing a live video or something like that. It helped me clarify my communication. So give them a name, pick a name you like, find out, where does your prospect live? Okay, what country are they in? What state, what city? What kind of house do they live in? Or do they live in a house? Do they live in an apartment? How old are they? Okay, what is their age? Age is a really big thing, because when we're looking at different age groups, we typically start identifying different problem sets, right? So people who are younger, maybe they're trying to buy their first home, or they're trying to find their first relationship. And people who are a little bit older, well, maybe they're they've got challenges because they've got young kids and they're trying to work and they're trying to juggle all this stuff. And then we've got our older demographic that, maybe their issues are retirement income or burning out at work or something like that. So age is really, really important. Pick one age. Remember, one person, one age. What does he or she do for a living? Or are they working? Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom wanting to contribute financially as well as all the things that they do in their household. Do they have kids? How many? Boys or girls? Are they married? How old are their kids? What does he or she do for fun? What do they do for an enjoyment? What do they love to do? What books do they read? What do they do for their hobbies and their fitness? What fires them up? What gets them excited, right? And when you really dive into these things, you can really define who that perfect person is so that when you do your posts, you not only put relevant content in front of them, but you also start speaking their language.
I love that. I love that, which leads right into this one. And because, once again, you start knowing what it is they want, then you can be thinking, what are they dreaming about, right? So do they want to travel more, right? If so, where? What are some of the places that they want to travel to? Because there's so many people for, depending on the avatar, if it's younger, I know today there's, lots of kids who are, instead of going out and getting a job right away, they're traveling before they go. There are lots of people I know that are a little older who maybe they didn't travel as much when they were younger. So, do they want to travel? Where could it be? Do they dream of time freedom? And if so, what are they doing with their free time? Right? Because a lot of times, one of the biggest things we hear all the time is, oh, I want time and financial freedom. Well, first of all, what does that look like? Right? What does that look like for the person? And second of all, what does that allow them to do? When they have that, what's it actually allow them to go do? What kind of relationship does she dream of, right? Is it someone who's single, married? What type of, relationship is it? What's the dream occupation? And again, this is going to be defined a lot by the age of the person that you choose, because someone younger is going to have likely a very different occupation than someone who's a little older or someone who's even, middle-aged. You're just not quite sure. And in a perfect world, what do they wish their bank account looked like, right? Do they want a bank account that, how many zeros are on that bank account? Is it a bank account that, maybe it's somebody who's been struggling financially and they're sick of needing to look at their bank account before they do anything. I've talked to people before that, gosh, I would be great to be able to go buy groceries without checking my bank account first. Right. So again, figuring out what that struggle is, figuring out what it is that they want. And what do they wish, they had with respect to health and beauty? Sometimes, again, it's, people wanting to, live a healthier life, live a healthier lifestyle. It could be a variety of different things, but really just focusing on what it is they dream about, because so many people have lost that vision to dream. They've lost that ability, and we want to stir that up for them. We really want to get them thinking again by putting some of these things out there, because so many people get so caught up in going to work every day and just going to work and collecting that check and paying their bills that they have forgotten what it's like to go live life. And by really thinking about what they're dreaming about, it's going to help bring those thoughts back to mind for them.
Next, we want to think about what keeps them awake at night. And so this is the pain part of the story, the pain part of where they're in. So what does your avatar worry about? So what are the things they worry about? Is it having more month than money, right? Is it, do they worry about their health? Do they worry about, being able to retire at a decent age? So what do they worry about? What keeps them awake at night? What are their biggest struggles that your product or opportunity might solve for them? So this is a big one here, because this is where you are able to show the benefits through your posts, through your lives, of what your product or your business can do for someone's life who's struggling, right? You become the problem solver for your avatar. So some examples, real simple examples, they need extra income to pay off debt, or they need extra income so they can start socking some away so that they have, the vision that someday they'll be able to retire. Maybe they lack confidence. Maybe they lack confidence. Maybe they're overweight and they're lacking confidence that your product can solve that problem, right? Maybe they feel guilty. Maybe they have mom guilt that they have to work 2 jobs and their kids are in daycare all day, right? Maybe they worry about that. I remember back when I was working a lot. I was traveling a lot for my job. I had a high pressure job. And I remember being on a school trip and we were closing this big deal at work and I was on the phone the whole time. And one of the moms, when we got off the bus, said, "Can't you put your phone away? Like, isn't your daughter important to you?" And I'm like, "You don't understand what's going on. I'm multitasking here." But man, I had mom guilt. So maybe your avatar is mom guilt. Maybe your avatar feels like they're missing out on life. Maybe they're getting a little bit older and they feel like the hands of the clock are spinning faster and faster as the years go by, and they're running out of good years to do all the things they dreamed of. So all of these things, right? When you can really get into the struggle, the things that keep your avatar awake at night, those pain points, the things they worry about, that's when your posts, you can become that valuable resource because your posts can start addressing some of those problems with either your product or your business so that you become the problem solver.
You know, Ruth, I remember you sharing that story with me a while ago, and it's still just so crazy to me because there's nothing worse than mom or dad guilt. Like, you're already putting so much pressure on yourself. You don't need anybody to point it out. You're like, it's so crazy. But you know, one of the things I was just thinking of too, as you were going through some of those things, another one that I hear a lot from people is being able to afford a vacation with the family. And you know, people are looking to make some extra money just so they can go on a family trip every year. So there's so many things, you know, you just really need to, you know, not so much be creative, but just really think about the things that are out there that you hear from people, or even maybe things that you're looking for yourself. So here are 3 of the top problems that we hear about quite a bit. All right, so now that you've brainstormed with your avatar's problem, pick top 3 high-stake problems that your product or opportunity solves. Right, so as you get that list, really, you know, be thinking about, okay, these are the problems that people have. Which ones can I use to be the most effective with my marketing? Which ones are really gonna hit home a little harder with my avatar, right? So because once you do that, these are going to be the ones that you focus on and solving in your marketing. These are going to be the ones that you talk a lot about. And I know, Ruth, you've shared a lot that you talked a lot about that mom guilt for a while because it was something that was really a big thing. And you also know that it's something that somebody else, you know, other people really struggled with as well. You know, once you have clarity on this, right, you can see how creating that content is going to become so much easier, because when you can really be thinking about, you know, what it is, you know, what problems, and then how your products or company can solve those problems, it's really quite simple. And you're going to find that writing content is just easier and easier and easier. Like almost everything you do starts to become, you know, just content that you can be using in your business.
So once your avatar starts to see you as a trusted advisor by helping them solve their problems, they're going to purchase your products, they're going to join your team based on your recommendations. And that's exactly how it works. So again, you've got to get very, very specific instead of general, right? That's why we want to narrow it down to one specific avatar with a problem set that your product or your opportunity can solve. And then you're consistently showing up, talking about, you know, in your marketing, how you solve various problems, or showing through your lifestyle, right? Showing through your posts. I mean, I love on Mondays, I typically do some stories where, maybe I'm out for a bike ride in the morning and I know, my avatar is on her way to work. And so your marketing can become very, very pointed around letting people know there's a different way and solving those problems. And when you're consistent, they start to follow you consistently. You become that trusted advisor. Your content builds know, like, and trust. And before you know it, they're reaching out to you saying, hey, what is it that you're up to? I need to know. I have this problem. Can we talk?
I mean, I love this too, because you think about it. I'm going to use a big name as an example here, but Oprah, everybody knows Oprah, right? And if she recommends a book or a product or anything, like, everybody's on it and buying it. That's what really happens to you as well. You become that same trusted advisor that when someone says to go do it, they don't ask why, they don't ask how, they just go do because you said it. So what brands do you know, right? Think about a brand that you know and trust. And you can see here, we've got an Adidas thing, Nike's another brand, phones, obviously Apple and Samsung, these are brands that people buy because they've come to know, like, and trust them. It's a brand that, it's got a great reputation. And the same things are going to happen for you as you're doing your marketing. And I remember when I got started, I kept thinking, yeah, how could I do that? How could I do this? But when you really focus and then you just stay consistent at doing it over and over and over and showing up every single day, it's going to be amazing when you see the people who reach out and then really how much they feel like they know you already just through your marketing.
So for this part of the training, we have an assignment for you. You're going to download and complete the Ideal Avatar worksheet. I really encourage you to spend some time thinking about who is that person you want to knock on your door and show up and say, hey, I'm ready to join your team. I've been following you. What qualities do they have? What struggles do they have? What dreams do they have? You really have to get to know everything about them. And this Ideal Avatar worksheet is going to help you work through that.
And just one tip I want to add in here too, like, this is really important, like really, really, really important. And I want to stress that because a lot of times when we talk with people, they really like race through this worksheet just to get it done. And then weeks later, they're still not very clear on who they're talking to. And so their content is all over the place. But if you really take the time now to really dive in and dig deep and truly figure out who your ideal prospect is, it's going to make your life so much easier going forward. And so I really encourage you to really take some good time. Like, it's not a 5-minute thing to fill out. Like, it's definitely going to take a little time. So really put some thought and effort into it.
And if you think about it, knowing your ideal prospect is really the foundation of your brand. Because without knowing your prospect, you don't know who you're marketing to, and then your content is all over the place. So this assignment is probably one of the couple that are critical that you really nail down. So like Trish said, spend a lot of time really thinking about it, put the work in and get clarity, right? We started with that word clarity, get clarity.
Awesome. All right, I see Matt coming back.
All right, that was amazing. Very, very cool. And I just have to reiterate some of what they're saying because I did a marketing coaching program. It was several $1,000s, and they had an ideal avatar exercise. And I'm telling you, I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I'm like, it's not that important. And thankfully, the person who was hosting this program was like, you have to do it. You're not going to want to do it. If you don't do it, nothing else is going to work. And I was like, damn it. All right, I'll do it. And I actually sat down. I took the time. I still have it with me. It's almost exactly the same as the one that we have here in the program. And it's a bunch of pages. It took a bunch of time. And, you know, my avatar, it's Mike Miller. He's 32, brown hair, brown eyes. He's married to Nancy, Dallas, Texas. He makes 45,000 a year. His wife's a teacher. Like, I dug in. And you might be going, yeah, but my ideal avatar isn't like this perfect person. Yeah, it is one specific person. Now, you could have multiple avatars, right? But start with one, okay? Start with one specific avatar and do the work. And I am really good friends. And, you know, I work with one of the most talented copywriters in the world. He's amazing. And he wrote a piece of content for me for a course that I was selling. And he, you know, writes the copy, we send it out, and this thing converts like crazy. Like, I was like, oh my God, you're a genius copywriter. I can't believe how talented you are. And he goes, dude, I'm going to tell you my secret. Remember you sent me your ideal avatar worksheet? I go, yeah. He goes, dude, read it and then read my copy. And so I went and I did. And I was like, dude, he just used what I have in here. And it was like, he's like, that was my secret. He's like, normally I have to go do all this research. You had already done it. And so I'm just telling you, it makes you so powerful as a marketer, so powerful as a salesperson when you can get into the space of where your ideal avatar is. Now, the reason why a lot of you are here right now is because I did this a long time ago. If you remember the live broadcast that I did, I used so much of that in the marketing for that. And I'm going to go through another exercise with you, but if you ever felt like, and this happens all the time, when, you know, in different marketing and presentations that I do, even trainings, people go, oh, I felt like you were speaking to me. This ideal avatar, doing this work is what allows you to speak to someone directly, where people will come up to you after Zooms that you do, trainings that you do, lives that you do, and they'll be like, oh, I felt like you were speaking directly to me. It's because of this. This is what really gives you that power. And what I want to go through with you guys, my screen is kicking off here. Check out my secret pin there, 1111. And you know, I'm fired up when I've got this behind me. So I'm going to go through a framework. Now, this is something that you'll do after you've created your ideal avatar. You do this, and I kind of call it the pain to pleasure bridge. You might call it the problem to possibility bridge. I should come up with some clever name for it. But it is an insanely powerful exercise that takes everything that you did in the ideal avatar worksheet and allows you to kind of like compartmentalize it and create a framework for your specific product that you're marketing or your specific opportunity. And so I'm going to draw it out for you, and then I'll dissect it a little bit. So I'm going to show you the framework first. And so here's kind of how it goes. Okay. And so over here, we have the problem. Okay. One of the things, I think Trish said it, is you want to identify a problem that your ideal avatar is having. That ideally your solution, your opportunity, or your product can help create a what? A possibility. Okay, so you have a problem and you have a possibility. And so here's my recommendation is if you are selling, I think Trish or Ruth said weight loss as an example. Let's say you're selling weight loss. So what are the problems that people have as it relates to their health or as it relates to weight? And so what would one problem might be? They're what? They're overweight, right? Overweight. Okay. What is the possibility? So there's a problem. What's the possibility? So the possibility here is that they are skinny. Okay. May not be someone's goal. My goal wouldn't be to be skinny. It would be to be like fit and muscular, but whatever it is. So you have the problem is you're overweight. The possibility is skinny. What's another problem that your product can solve, or another problem that your product or your offering can help solve? So one might be, typically, if you're overweight, you have a lack of energy. So two might be that you are tired. Okay, so what's the possibility on that? Would be that you are energetic. Okay, what else? Number 3, maybe you have aches. The possibility of that would be that you are pain free. Maybe your product has something to do with, like, it does a handful of different things. It helps people with a handful of different things, right? It might also be sleep. So let's say you don't sleep well, problem sleeping. And what's the opposite of that is you sleep like a baby. Okay, so this is the problem and this is the possibility. So for your solution, for your product, think of ideally 3 or 4 different problems that your ideal avatar has, and then figure out what is the possibility for it. Okay, then we're not done, because in each of the, and by the way, what this whole process is designed to do one thing. It's to create a bridge. Okay, it's a bridge from their problem to the possibility. The bridge is your solution. The mistake that so many marketers make is they spend all their time talking about their solution, and they spend very little time talking about the problem and the possibility. Now, there's 2 other components to this, and if you miss this next component, your marketing is fairly impotent. It's not going to be very powerful. So what is it? It is you take each of these problems and you find the associated pain to go with the problem. So what we're going to do, like in the marketing, like when I was going through the VSL, for instance, or the live broadcast, when I was going through that, I spent a lot of time talking about pain. Okay, so what I call this is the pit of pain. And if you don't take people into the pit of pain, you won't have as much motivation. What my mentor told me many years ago is, he said, you know, you've heard the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, that's not true, because if you put salt in his mouth, he'll get thirsty and he'll drink. So the pit of pain is kind of like the salt. And I'm going to talk about kind of how I do this in just a second. But within each problem, ideally, you identify 2 or 3 pains that are associated with that problem. So if they're overweight, what's a pain associated with being overweight? Well, you feel self-conscious. That would be an example of a pain. Okay, you're embarrassed to go out. That might be an example. Okay, now you can't say, quick warning here, you can't be like, you're overweight and you probably have this pain going on. That doesn't work very well. It quickly breaks all rapport with your prospect. Okay, so we're going to go into the pit of pain, and the most powerful way that I've done this is through my own story. What is my story? So if you remember, in a lot of my marketing, I do the same thing all the time. I talk about, I may say, hey, I've been blessed to be able to, earn $20 million in network marketing, build teams of 2.5 million people, have $50 million earners, and, spoken to audiences in 36 countries around the world. But listen, it was not always that way. I spent my first 5 years spending more money than I was making. I couldn't seem to make anything work. I felt so frustrated, so just defeated inside. Like I would lie awake at night thinking, what's wrong with me? Why is maybe I'm just not cut out for network marketing? And then I got to the point where I actually had a few people on my team, and it felt like they were quitting as fast as they were joining. So I felt like, man, I'm running around in circles. I feel like I'm trying to spin plates, trying to keep it all going. Like the reason why I can say this, like it rolls off my tongue now, because I took the time to actually go through this. So what is the problem? What's the associated pain with that problem? And then what is the possibility? Okay. Now there's one other component to this, and it is the pleasure. What is the emotional pleasure that relates to the possibility? Okay, so for being skinny, maybe it is confidence. That's the pleasure with being skinny or being fit is feeling overflowing levels of confidence, like feeling this incredible vitality in your life, feeling like you have boundless levels of energy. Okay. So it's all of this together. Now I'm going to give you guys an example of this that I've specifically used in marketing. Now, when I'm in front of a room, if I'm presenting my network marketing opportunity, I'm going to tell my own personal story about what it was like when I felt chained to my desk, when I was fighting traffic to and from work every day, when I was not able to take my kids on vacation, when I go through like the problems that I had was I wasn't making enough money. I didn't have enough time. And then what was the pain associated with not having enough time? I felt like I was missing out on my daughter growing up. You know, my wife would send me pictures of all these cute things that my daughter was doing, and I missed it. I had to see it through my smartphone versus actually being there. And so I'm telling my own story, inserting my own story here. Now, here's where most people miss out is they skip the pit of pain. Amateur marketers say, all right, hey, I have this product and it does this and it does this and it does this. But they miss out on the emotional side. See, understand that people do way more for emotion than they do with logic. So many people are spending all their time talking about the logic of their solution, but that's not the primary motivating factor that causes people to actually buy. It's emotion. And if you can bring out what your emotion is, or maybe it might be someone else's story, like my friend John, who came into the program and he was 35 pounds overweight and he felt ashamed of himself, or he felt this and he felt this and he felt this. And I'm kind of going into that pit of pain. So there's someone relating going, oh, I feel like John. Or as it relates to the mom guilt, dad guilt, parent guilt, that's a real thing. And when you go there, other people go there as well. And see, you don't actually have to talk about your solution very much if you can really dial all of this in. If you get all this dialed in, you don't have to talk that much about it because people will automatically associate you and your solution as the bridge from the problem to the possibility. Now, understand that the highest level of marketing, what I believe anyway, is when you out yourself, when you tell your painful story. So when you're on a Zoom, when you're on a live, when you can write it, let me tell you a story. And you say, let me tell you a story, people lean in and they listen and they start opening up their hearts with a story. People love and they connect with public vulnerability. Like people are starving to be connected, and your vulnerability, when you go into your pit of pain, it brings them into the pit of pain. And it motivates them to figure out what are the possibilities and what's the pleasure associated with the possibility. So the fastest way to gain trust is to let them know that you're not hiding anything. So being vulnerable and actually speaking the truth. Okay, so let me show you, let me share my screen real quick. I'm getting a little hoarse here. I've been talking too much. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. I'm going to share this with you guys real quick. Now, it takes time to do this, but here's the deal. Like whatever product you're marketing, you might be marketing travel, you might be marketing wellness products, it might be weight loss. There's lots of different, financial products fit here, like so perfect financial products. Okay. So there's a lot, you can do this with just about everything. And so this was a marketing piece that we put together when we launched our co-authorship program. And this is something that I would talk about in a presentation, and we actually put on the screen. And so here's the problem is you're not seen as a king or queen, but as a pawn in the game of business. And you continually struggle financially watching others pass you by. And so that's the problem. The pains associated with that are you remain frustrated, wondering why you can't get ahead while other people are crushing it. I say that all the time. You beat yourself up inside. It's something I say all the time. I used to beat myself up upside all the time, wondering what's wrong with me. And you start to think, maybe I'm just not cut out for this network marketing thing. Your closest loved ones wish you would pull your head out of the clouds and focus on a real job, leaving you feeling disconnected and annoyed. Now, here's a quick tip. I use this all the time in my training. even if I'm not trying to sell something, if I want people to connect with my message powerfully, the reason why people can connect with me powerfully is because I've taken the time to do the ideal avatar worksheet, and I've taken the time to draw out, like, what are the pains that network marketers go through? Now, what's the possibility? So the possibility here is, as a best-selling author, you're admired and respected as an authority, and finally seeing the financial freedom you've dreamed of. What's the pleasure? So that's the possibility. The pleasure is you're overjoyed because you are now the leader others are coming to for advice and mentorship. You have an incredible sense of pride knowing that you've made it and you're truly rising to your highest potential, and you're bringing others along for the ride. You feel honored and looked up to from family and friends because you've proven them wrong, being able to accomplish your dreams and goals. That's the first one. What's the next problem that people have? You have no solid system to attract new prospects and leaders to your business. So what's the pain? Discouraged with average results. You're sick and tired of feeling like you're having to chase people down. You secretly envy those that you see sponsoring other people. What's the possibility? So we go into the pit of pain. Now the possibility. You've gone from the hunter to the hunted, consistently having high caliber people reaching out to work with you. You're confident and assured. You've eliminated your scarcity. You feel powerful. You have a level of significance and contribution you didn't know was possible. Okay, what's the next problem? Your team struggles with duplication because you only attract people on a lower level of leadership scale than you are. So the pain, you feel burned out and exhausted, constantly spinning plates. You feel disheartened, a bit like a fraud, because this dream of financial freedom that you're talking about seems like such a distant pipe dream. You feel like you've been banging your head against the wall because you've tried so many different things and you can't get your team to grow fast enough. What's the possibility? Your organization grows each month because of the high caliber leaders that you and your team are attracting. What's the pleasure? You feel peaceful and balanced in your life. What else? You feel a sense of security and strength. You're grateful and self-assured. What's the next problem? Okay. You lack internal self-confidence as a leader because you really haven't done anything remarkable. And so what is the pain? You have to act confident, but you have no clue. You feel the need to numb out with alcohol, food, binge watching Netflix, mindlessly scrolling through social media, playing games on your phone. You feel beaten down and disheartened because you should be so much farther ahead in life than you are. Okay. And again, this is like text on a screen. You can do that. If you're talking one-on-one, you're not telling people you this. You're telling your own story, or you might be telling someone else's story. Okay. You stand in power as a leader because you've accomplished what less than 1% of entrepreneurs will ever do. You feel a deep internal confidence. You look in the mirror and you love the person looking back at you. You feel immortal, knowing the legacy of what you've created will live beyond you, and you've created generational wealth for your family and a positive impact for thousands of others. Okay. So this is one of the secrets to being one of the world's best marketers, if you'll take the time to actually do it. I can't stress how powerful this is. So I'm going to recap the framework for you. Okay. Number one, you're going to identify the problems that your product and opportunity will help solve. So you identify 2, 3, 4 problems that your opportunity, your product will help solve. Okay. Then you're going to identify 3 pains, ideally 3 pains associated with each problem. Okay. So you got problem number 1. If it's overweight, you got 1, 2, 3 pains. You're tired. What's the pain associated with being tired? 1, 2, 3. What are the aches? What's the pain associated with that? 1, 2, 3. Lack of sleep. 1, 2, 3. So we're creating this pit of pain. Next, what is the possibility? The possibility is essentially the opposite of the problem. So if you're overweight, the opposite would be skinny. If you're tired, the opposite is energetic. If you have aches, the opposite is pain-free. Sleep. You can't sleep, sleep like a baby. Okay. So you create the possibility, and then you associate 2, 3 pleasures associated with each of the possibilities. So what are the pleasures associated with being skinny? 1, 2, 3. Energetic. 1, 2, 3. Pain-free. 1, 2, 3. Sleep like a baby. 1, 2, 3. Wake up every morning feeling refreshed and ready to attack the day. Okay. Now look, this is a lot of work. I said it at the beginning of the coaching, this is a lot of work. And you don't have to do it, but I want to give you enough training here. I want to give you the frameworks, and I want to give you the highest level of persuasion possible, because if you want to be the best in the world, we can help you get there if you're willing to do the work. And I'm telling you, almost no one in network marketing is willing to do this work. Almost no one. It's not 1%. It's not half of 1%. It's a tiny fraction of 1%. Almost no one will do this. And so you have an opportunity to be one of the best in the world. Now, we're going to shift gears. So part of your homework is going to be obviously the ideal avatar worksheet. By the way, in the description, I believe we have it in the description of the live in the workplace, should be in there. Okay, so check that when we're done with the broadcast. Next, what I want to talk about is a character development system. Now, it's one of the things that I talked about, and this is not something that I see much coaching on. And again, we go back to the thing that I've reiterated the last couple of weeks is everyone talks about success is attracted by the person that you become. The question is, how do you become that person? Like, what is the personal development system? What is the identity creation system? And part of this identity creation system that I developed here is a character development system. And listen, it's not like I invented all this. I've done so much work over the years, so many events, so much coaching, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching and mentorship, and taking the best and like pulling different pieces here and there to create something that makes sense. Like I'm telling you, when I went through this, it made absolutely no sense. The way that it was designed, like I've redone it so it's much simpler than the way it was explained to me. And if you're not getting it, watch the training again, and we can certainly do Q&As on this. If this is not making sense, we want to make sure it makes sense for you, okay? And so the character development system, why is this important? Well, let's talk about what character is. So your character is essentially the sum total of the values or the virtues that you live by, okay? So your character is essentially who you are. Your reputation, see, people sometimes mix up character and reputation. Your reputation is who people think you are. Character is who you actually are. And sometimes a really good character might hurt your reputation. As an example, in network marketing, you talk to people and you expose your opportunity and they reject you or they think something negative about it. And so it may short-term damage your character or your reputation. But here's the deal. If you'll focus on your character, not your reputation, results will manifest themselves, right? And long-term, like years ago, like I was kind of embarrassed because I spent all these years doing network marketing and failing. 5 years failing in network marketing. So my reputation was not very good. But I decided to do what was going to be powerful for me, what I believed was right. And the results started to manifest, and time will either promote you or expose you. Okay. So time will promote you if you'll focus on your character. Don't worry so much about your reputation. Listen, when you get on, you start doing lives and you start developing an audience, and you're going to have haters. You're never not going to have haters. I mean, I put up some silly thing today and I had a hater that I blocked. And here's my philosophy on it. When I get a hater, I block and move on. Like I used to want to argue with them. Sometimes I still do want to argue with them. But it's not worth the time. Okay. If you argue with an idiot, they just bring you down to their level. Okay. So again, network marketers fail because they focus more on their reputation than their character. And so a good character is this. A good character is when you consistently do the things you know you should do, and you don't do the things that you know you shouldn't do. Okay. So why is character development so powerful? Because when character is instilled at a deep level, your behavior, it becomes much more automatic because it becomes who you are. So if we go back to the training that I went through, I believe it was in week 1, we talked about your identity. Okay, all of what we're going through is what helps you shape a powerful identity. And when you're focusing on your character, and that helps program your identity into the person that you are. And you have this law of consistency and commitment that says you will be committed to remain consistent with who you believe you are. Okay. And so if you want to have increased natural self-motivation, focus on what we did in the first 2 weeks and focus on your character. And what happens is, from an attraction standpoint, here's why this is important. From an attraction standpoint is, when you live by a set of powerful virtues and you show them consistently and you show up as those virtues consistently, you naturally attract people who desire to live by those same virtues or who are already living by those virtues. Okay. So you might have, there's an unlimited number. In fact, there's a core virtues worksheet that we have that you can download. Should be in the description in Workplace. But achievement, if one of your virtues is achievement, you're going to attract other people who have a strong desire for achievement. If you show up as love, you're going to attract people who are attracted to that, who want to be love as well. If you show up as fun, you'll attract fun people. If you show up as someone who has a really strong work ethic, you'll attract others with work ethic. Okay. If you show up with confidence, you're going to attract people who are drawn to confidence. And this is a huge piece of the attraction formula that almost no one talks about. A lot of what will attract people to you is this character development system. It helps you make decisions. It helps direct your life. Like, should you pursue a particular opportunity? Now, I'll give you an example. My company went out of business. And not went out of business. Sorry. I had a company that I was involved in that went out of business. And I had started getting into multifamily apartment investing, multifamily real estate. And I started going to events. I met probably the top guru in Dallas when it comes to that. One of my best friends was like heavily involved. And I kind of looked, it was like, maybe I should get involved in that, because I'm a great networker. I know I can raise money. I know I can find the right people to find the right deals. And I had it serious. It was like, financially, I might make even more money doing that than in network marketing. And I'll tell you why I didn't. Why I didn't pursue that was because, for me, if I look at my values, like what I'm excited about and the virtues that I want to live by, I'm not passionate about real estate. Like, that's not one of those things that is like in line with who I ultimately want to be. Now, I love real estate. I invest. I just invested $200,000 in a real estate project. So I do lots of real estate. I love network marketing because you can earn residual income to then invest in real estate and buy more residual income. Okay. And so nothing against real estate, but what I'm going to be doing every single day, when I looked at the kind of financial modeling that you have to do, the kind of analytical work that you have to do, I was like, you know what? This doesn't fit my values. Okay. It would have fit some of my older values. Like, one of my core values, core virtues to live by, it was achievement. Okay. And that drove me to achieve, but it didn't fit the values that I had. So when you get these dialed in, the core virtues that you're committed to living by, it helps you make decisions. It makes life easier. Okay. And so the question is, how do you expand anything? How do you expand your character? You focus on it. Okay. So we're going to start focusing on this character development. And so most people put almost no focus on this at all. Most have close to zero focus on their virtues, so they remain stuck. And in dealing with leaders, like, I feel like part of my wheelhouse is like, what I'm really good at is helping people break through plateaus. So if you're a leader and you have an organization and your organization is stuck, how do you get the organization unstuck? Well, you have to get unstuck. And people tend to get stuck because of the inner game. And so this inner circle is all about helping you get a level of mastery in the inner game that most will never come anywhere close to. Now, if you look at most successful major corporations, if you look at Uber, you look at Netflix, you've Amazon, Google, any like big company out there, they have a core values list, like a list of core values. Like, here's what we stand for. You can think of this as your core values, your core virtues. It's what you stand for. Most companies have this. Any corporate consultant, any top executive is going to tell you that companies who live by a set of powerful core values are more likely to create long-term success. So if the biggest companies in the world have this, why don't we have them internally? It's crazy that we don't. So what we're going to do is create your ideal virtues. You could call them virtues. You can call them values. Here's a couple questions to ask yourself is, what do my core virtues need to be to live my ultimate life and to live my purpose? Now, what's an example of a virtue? Passion, confidence, energy. Again, you can download the list and there's a ton there, right? So what do those need to be for you? What do you really need to focus on? What do you need to live by? What do you need to stand for in order to live your vision and your purpose? Okay. What virtues are going to expand the 8 F's in your life? Okay. Which is your faith, your family, your field or your business, your field of work, your finances, your fitness, your friends, your fun, and the fuel for your mind, your growth. Okay. There may be some values that you need to eliminate. So one of your values might be comfort, like something that you find yourself, like whether you're conscious to it or not, we all live by values. You might be living with a little too much comfort. You know, one of mine early on was cowardice. Like I was not courageous. So I needed to change that. Okay. It might be vanity. It might be like you're super vain. And because of that, you're constantly obsessing over the way you look and, you know, you don't feel confident. So you figure out what is a core virtue that's going to allow you to be able to, lower that a little. It might be insensitivity. We'll tell you, that's probably one of mine was insensitivity. I, went through the Marine Corps and there's not a lot of sensitivity training in the Marines. And so I think it was probably harder for me to be able to really have empathy with people. And I've gotten way better than I was previously. But that might be an example of a virtue that I need to eliminate. Okay. So here's what I believe is true is a strong character is going to lead to a great life. And your character magnifies success in every area of your life. That is my personal belief. A strong character is going to magnify everything that you're doing. Okay. And you build a strong character by focusing on your core virtues and maintaining a level of discipline towards actually living them out. So here's what your assignment is going to be. It's going to write down the virtues that you've been living by. Okay. So you take a look at your life. And what are the virtues that you've been living by? Like when I did this years ago, I wrote mine down. And so my old virtues, my old virtues were achievement, energy and passion, determination, sacrifice, hard work, Kaizen, constant and never-ending improvement, and then confidence. Those were the values I didn't consciously create those, but when I took some time and I said, how have I been living? Like what virtues have I been living by? These are the ones. Okay. And when I went through this, I was fairly successful. I had created some success. I was making money. It led to a good amount of money and it led to a great amount of significance, but I was out of shape. started getting overweight. I was tired. I was burned out, complete lack of adventure, fulfillment. I was literally the guy who was like, I'll crawl through broken glass if I have to, right? Maybe this was like Marine Corps boot camp. It was like, you improvise, adapt, overcome. There's always a way. And that serves me to a degree. Some of you may need to have a little bit more of that in your life. Like, I realize naturally I have a bit of an overabundance when it comes to like achievement and sacrifice. Like, I've got to pull myself back a little bit because it's not just all about the money. Okay. So I've created new virtues for my life. Okay. And the new virtues, when I look through the new virtues, number one, health and vitality. So number one is you're going to create a list, maybe 5, 7, 10 virtues that you've been living by. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create a new list of virtues. And again, this list of virtues, it's when you live by a set of virtues, that becomes your character. Okay. So we got to create virtues that will equal a powerful character. And these are virtues that, in some cases, you already kind of have it going on and you want to magnify it a little bit. You may have some virtues, like one of mine was achievement. And I was like, it's not on my list anymore. Achievement is not on my list. And it's not on there because that's so natural for me. And achievement comes as a byproduct of purpose. So purpose has become one of my core values. And so for me, what I'm doing right now, it will help me achieve more, but I'm not doing it for achievement. I'm doing it for purpose. It's more fulfilling. So hopefully that's making sense. So health and vitality. Why? Because nothing in my life is more important than my physical health. So taking care of my body comes first. So what I would recommend my coaching is when you write the virtue. And listen, everyone's like, well, what are the rules behind it? There's no rules. Like one of mine is Kaizen. There's no virtue called Kaizen. It doesn't matter, right? That's not like you list any core value list you find online. You're not going to find Kaizen. I put it in there because it's meaningful for me. Like what that means is the Japanese art of continuous and never-ending improvement. I'm committed to continuous and never-ending improvement. Greatness comes not from being perfect, but by taking bold action and not being afraid to fail. Okay. So what I recommend is you write the value, and it might be health and vitality, right? And then what it means to you. Nothing in my life is more important than my physical health. So taking care of my body comes first. Today, I had so much going on and I was like, I don't really want to go to the gym, but I started thinking like, who am I? I'm a peak performance athlete. It's what I've wired in my head. Would a peak performance athlete take the day off because he had a lot going on? No, he would go work out. If I look at my virtues, number one, health and vitality, I got to get to the gym. Okay. Next, joyfulness. The purpose of life is happiness. This is my belief. Like I write joyfulness. And here's why I created the virtue of joyfulness and I focus on it every day. I created it because I was not living in joyfulness. I was living in success and in achievement and significance, but I needed to experience more joy in my life. And so so this becomes a focus so that I can enhance that area of life. Why? What we focus on expands. If you're not focused on what you want, it doesn't expand. So I write to the side of it, the purpose of life is happiness. I continually commit myself to focus on the incredible blessings God gives me in each moment. Next, energy and passion. I'm overloaded with energy and passion towards my life, my family, my friends, and my business. Okay. Purpose and impact. I'm committed to making a positive impact in the lives of others, believing that within each individual lies unlimited possibility. Next, authenticity. And I wrote this because I felt like what I notice is what people would say all the time, like pay attention to what people are saying about you, is you seem so real. Like we wanted to join because you just seem so real. And it was like, oh, that's authenticity. So I need to maybe expand that even more. If I see that something's working, let's do it even more. And it makes me feel really good because like, I don't have to hide anything. I can just be my authentic self, and be powerful. So I'm at peace with exactly who I am. My transparency and realness open up powerful connections with others. Kaizen, which I already talked about with you guys. So, and then peacefulness. So I have a sense of inner calm no matter what is happening around me. Here's why I created this. Being authentic with you. Got a lot going on in my life. Got 3 kids. I have multiple businesses, investments, lots of commitments, an organization spread out across 40 countries, tens of thousands of people around the world, lots of stuff coming at me. And so what I struggle with to this day, if I had to say, like, what is one of your biggest struggles? It's overwhelm. There's so much to do every single day. It's why I created a personal planning system. I call it the Conquer Your Life system. I'm going to be talking about that with you guys. It is so freaking powerful. I am jacked up to be able to show it to you. So, but that'll be coming later. Okay. But I created peacefulness as one of my core virtues because I needed it. And what happens is when I start feeling overwhelmed with that, when I'm in board meetings or I'm in advisory meetings and the shit's hitting the fan, I can remind myself I have a sense of inner calm no matter what's happening around me. That's the virtue. And I believe 1,000% it's possible for me. All I have to do is remind myself. All I have to do is focus on it. Okay. Most people get bent out of shape. Like they live with so much anxiety, and I've lived with it. So I get it. Not making anyone wrong, because man, I've been there way too many times. But if you want to expand the opposite, focus on the opposite. What's the opposite of overwhelm? Peacefulness. So work on it. So my friends, what is your homework? So we already talked about your ideal avatar worksheet. Okay, so do your ideal avatar worksheet. You're going to want to skip it. Don't skip it. Do not skip it. The other thing is spend some time going through the problem to possibility framework that I went through with you guys. Spend some time on that. List the virtues that you've been living by. So 5, 7, 10, what are the virtues that you've been living by? And create a new list, 7 to 10 virtues that you're committed to living by. That if you lived by those virtues, that your life would be amazing. It would expand every area of your life. It would allow you to help live your purpose and live your vision. And here's what you're going to do. This becomes a part of your daily power ritual. Is each day you're going to look at them. Now, I don't spend a whole lot of time. Like this is my manifesto, right? So virtues I live by, I look at them. Like some mornings I'm in a hurry and I don't spend a ton of time, but I'm looking at each one. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of those virtues that you're going to work towards for that day, just one. Now, I got this idea. I started implementing it from Ben Franklin. I read his autobiography years and years ago, and he had 13 virtues that he created, and he would cycle through. He would focus on one virtue all week long, and then he'd pick the next one all week long, the next one all week long. So there's basically 13 virtues, a quarter. Every quarter has 13 weeks. And so he would cycle through each of the virtues every quarter. He would like hit all 13. Now, personally, I pick one a day because what I find for me in my crazy life and the life of most networkers is it may need to change throughout the day. So I pick one. Like today, I'm going to live and this is a big one for me, is energy and passion. It's one that I do a lot because I need a reminder. I do peacefulness a lot, especially if I just feel like I'm starting the day and I know I have so much going on, I'm going to write down peacefulness. And that's going to be what I'm going to focus on that day. And it helps me be a happier individual. It helps me become the person I ultimately want to be by focusing on that for the day. Okay. So let's recap. Okay. You're going to go through the ideal avatar worksheet. You're going to go through the problem to possibility, create the pains and the pleasures. You're going to list the values that you've been living by. You're going to create the virtues that you're committed to living by. And then each day you're going to pick one of those for the day as part of your daily power ritual in your identity stack. So what are your daily power rituals? Number one is your gratitude stack. You're going to do your gratitude stack. Number two is your learning stack. And then number three is your identity stack. So we're adding on to the identity stack. You're going to read your purpose. You're going to read your vision. You're going to look over your virtues, and you're going to pick one to focus on for that day. So that is the training, my friends. Now, in your accountability groups, you're going to get together, schedule a time, ideally before Thursday. Share your biggest takeaways and what you're committed to implementing. Okay. Go deep with this, as deep as you possibly can, anytime you have an opportunity to interact with your accountability group. Next, you're going to share your ideal avatar worksheet. Now, you may not go through every little piece. It gets a little bit too long. Pick a couple sections that are really meaningful and read that to the group. When you guys come together, part of what makes this powerful is, number one, you have some accountability to do the work. So you're way more likely to do the work. In fact, when Trisha and Ruth and I, when we're creating the curriculum, we're going through all this and we're going, people aren't going to do the work without accountability. There's so much in here. And we know, like the three of us know how powerful you will be if you'll do the work. And it's one of the biggest reasons we created the accountability groups. Okay. So you're going to get in your group. And then the other thing that makes the accountability group so powerful is all of you sharing your learnings. You all get way more than if it's just us teaching you. Okay. So you're going to share some portions of your ideal avatar worksheet. You're going to share your virtues. Okay. Share your virtues and you'll give ideas. Some of you may change your virtue because you hear about someone else's and you're like, oh, wow, that would be powerful for me. And then you're going to do whatever else serves the group. So my friends, I appreciate your time. We're about 90 minutes in here. And so listen, I am so excited to be on this journey with you guys. We'll have our coaching call on Thursday, and then we are going to be diving deep into the social recruiting system again for next week's coaching. You got a lot of work between now and next week. So my friends, do the work. Literally no excuse for not doing the work. And if we go back to pre-training, there's a couple main things, and there's a reason why I created the rules of engagement. Okay. One was trust the process, and another one was do the work. Trust the process and do the work. See, if you don't trust the process, you won't do the ideal avatar worksheet. If you don't trust the process, you won't do the work. So trust the process. And even if you trust the process, don't let comfort allow you to skip out on doing this. Don't hide out. I've hid out so many times in different coaching programs and different events that I've gone to. I've hid out and I cheated myself. I robbed myself. Don't rob yourself of the blessings that you'll get from actually doing the work. So love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll see you next week. Take care.